Hello and welcome to the St. Louis Online. I'm Pete Smith, co-chairman of the 40th National Narrow Gauge Convention Planning Committee. The video you are about to watch is part of a series of clinics and layout tours presented as a virtual but slimmed down version of our narrow gauge convention, which had to be canceled due to the coronavirus. We thank all of our presenters for their support and for allowing us to share their work with you. Our thanks also to Russ Segner, Robin Peel, and Bruce Stewart for producing this series. For more information on this video and others, go to our website at 40nngc.com. We hope you enjoy the program that follows.
Here is Bob Lenz, Colorado Western and Aspen Junction Railroads.
I want to welcome you to my layout. Here's some of the basics of my layout. It's an HO scale. I have two railroads. The Colorado Western is an HO standard gauge, and the Aspen Junction is a narrow gauge HOn3. The era of my railroad is about the 1930s, but if you look around my layout, you'll see there's a lot of anomalies of that date and time. The layout wasn't necessarily designed as an operating layout for operations as they guys are doing it now. When I started this back about 30 some years ago, I didn't think about that kind of stuff, so it's just what it is. My main interest is building, construction. I love to build buildings. I love to do scenery. I like building the basic benchwork of the layout. I've hand laid all the track in the narrow gauge and used flex track in the standard gauge. Once I got done with the narrow gauge, which was completed first, I got so sick and tired of spiking ties, even with the spiker, that I decided to go to flex track. The switches are all operated with either twin solenoids. Most of the narrow gauge ones are twin solenoids, and that's where I started first, and they didn't have the switch master or any other motors. I do have some on the standard gauge. I have a lot of switch master motors, and I got some blue point machines in my basalt yard. Plus I have ground throws, and I even got a few switches you can throw with your fingers. The layout room is maximum dimensions are 20 by 40, and it's lit with 300. The layout portion of it, above the layout, there's 30 500K LED bulbs, plus that's in the aisleways. We have fluorescent fixtures with LED tubes in them. Philips puts out a tube that you can put in a regular fluorescent fixture, and it works fine. The layout is an around the wall shelf layout, except for one peninsula, and the shelf is about 3 foot deep, and the peninsula is about 6 foot and across. My roadbed is homosote cut into 7/8 inch strips and laid on edge to whatever dimension I needed. If I would put a switch in, it'd be a wider dimension. Just the track is about 4 strips wide. And the flat areas are mainly homosote on top of 3/8 plywood. So you get the 7/8 inch thickness there. Most of the rock work are castings, type A molding plaster made from my molds or borrowed molds or purchased molds, and wherever I get a good mold. I tried the Bragdon method, but I didn't like it because I like to stain the plaster. Takes the stain much better. I did use 4 cripple bush rubber rock molds and had gray paint them before I put them in. Here's my track plan. I was looking at my old track plans and saw that the track plans I had saved didn't look anything like the layout. So many changes were made along the way. So I drew this up recently, and it's relatively pretty accurate. I mean, the standard gauge is this area over in here, and narrow gauge is all this here. Now there is a return loop for the standard gauge underneath Ashcroft, and there is some hidden track over here for the standard gauge also. Originally, the narrow gauge was supposed to have a return loop over in this area, but the clearances didn't work out, so I had to stick with something else, went a different way. Start with the tour of the Colorado Western. It's a totally freelance or fictional railroad, but it follows the old Colorado Midland right away. I modeled areas from Leadville through the Boscovino Tunnel, over Hellgate, past Thomasville, and into Basalt. At Thomasville, there's a spur that goes up to the Loon Lake Lumber Company up here. That's in honor of my friend Pete Smith. This is my Leadville area. The town basically is down here, and most of this down here is the engine facilities. The Leadville backdrop, all my backdrops were painted by Greg Gray. And the Leadville backdrop, these are actual paintings from photos we found in some of my extensive collection of books. And Greg painted them right out of the books, and he did a fantastic job. You can find the pages in the books, and they look exactly the same. As I said, I don't know if I mentioned before, I have fluorescent tubes in addition to my regular lighting in the ceiling. And when you light it up at night, for night running or night visual, you can see the town, all the lights on in the town, and stars in the sky. Most of my structures are kits. I have a half a dozen scratch-built ones that I've done, but most of my structures are full of kits. Leadville has, I don't know how many structures in it. Most of these two are Campbell kits. This, I don't know, these two buildings right here, I inherited from Craig Brown off of his layout. The saloon is a Monster Model Works kit. I did a complete interior. I like to put interiors and lighting into my kits that I build. I haven't done them on all of them, but the more I do, I put them in. And this is a Wild West Models kit here. Here's some more of the kits in Leadville. This is a Wild West model, and here's the interior I put into it. You can see the detail I went into, tried to get in there. It's tough putting a whole lot of stuff in an HO scale kit, but I try to get as much in as I can. These two are also from Craig Brown's old layout. I don't know whose kits they are, but they're interiors in them too, and lighting. Here are the Leadville mines in the mill. This is a Blair Line's cash mine, and this I had this constructed especially for this because it was higher, some Anvil Mountain products. This is a Campbell mine head frame, and you can't see it, but on the other side of the mountain here, there's an ore bin, and then we scratch built the conveyor belt, take the ore down to the Campbell kit mill. And here's the Leadville engine facilities. The overall view here. The coaling station is from Campbell. You've all recognized that, I'm sure, as well as the water tank and sand house. The turntable is from SS Limited, and the engine house is American Model Builders. The next stop on our tour is Thomasville. Thomasville is a 2-level town. This upper level completely pulls out of the layout because there's some hidden trackage below, some switches in it that I have to get access to. Here's the lower level. You got the station, post office, and Rand's Recycling. This Rich Rand's help on the layout, so he gets a building named after him. Here's the upper level. These two are Wild West Models kits. This is a BTS, I believe, and this is a Foss. I don't know where, I think this is a Bantam model, but I'm not sure. I inherited that from someone. And this is a Wicked Wanda. This is from Bar Mills. And Alan, if you look real close in the window there, you can see one of your figures in there, entertaining her customer. This track right here is what leads up to Loon Lake Lumber. It's a spur line. And there's an overall panoramic view of Loon Lake Lumber. I said it's in honor of Pete Smith. I like fine scale miniatures kits, and I have about 4 of them on the layout. This is their logging repair shed. And here's what it looks like lit up in the evening. This is their sawmill. This is a small, they made 2 sawmill kits. This is a smaller of the 2. I built the larger one. I scratch built the larger one off of fine scales plans for Herb Koenig some time ago. And this is it lit up at night. You see all the detail of the interior there. And this is a Woodland Scenics tie and plank mill. And this is an Alexander stiff leg derrick. And this is a Woodland Scenics. It's one of those metal kits. And Jeff Book built this for me. And he did such a fantastic job. It doesn't even look like metal. It looks like wood all the way. There's a close-up view of the interior. Here's the office. It's a Wild West Models kit. And here is the bunkhouse area. Those are BTS structures. And then, I don't know where Craig Brown built these for me, but I don't know what kits they are. This is a McGiffert log loader from Rio Grande Models, and Pete Smith built that for me. And here's looking down the hill. It's slanted down toward the layout, or toward the backdrop. And it's all logged off area. And you can see three workers down there cleaning up some lumber. This here is a building and structure company little kit over there. Next stop is basalt. Here you can see how I constructed the layout. This board here is level all around the whole layout. It's about 40, ranges from 40 to 41 inches off the floor, depending on how the floor slope, but it was all leveled out with a laser level. Then I put just regular L girder construction on top of that. And there you can see the homosote on top of the 3/8 inch plywood for my 7 inches thickness. This, excuse me, back here you can see this is now the high line. It was supposed to be the hidden trackage, which I had made out of homosote, and I put mason on both sides because it would be hidden so the train wouldn't fall off, but it's been taken down since then. This shelf under here is for all my power supplies. And this is what it now looks like, finished. It's not totally finished, but it's pretty darn close. This is now this area here is the high line up here. And the side, you come into the town of Basalt, the first thing you pass is the Kalin Materials Company, which is another fine scale kit. It's the rock bunker. Then you pass the cattle pens, which is one of the things I did scratch build. I found a good drawing in the Gazette some time ago, and took it out and put it on cardboard, used some 1/4 inch punches, punched holes where all the posts would be, and built it up from there. Then you come, this is the saloon, Railhead Saloon. It's got an interior, complete interior and lighting. And this is Kokomo House from Wild West Models. It's the mayor's house. And it's got 2 levels in it, both lit with furniture inside. This is the other scratch build item I made. It's Post Spool Hall, named for Brian Post. Has stuff in here I got from Fun and Games, more stuff from Alan. I get a complete bar. You can't really see it in this picture, but there's a complete bar in here, and it's lit up. Other in the town, we've got the assay office, which is another Wild West. I like Wild West Models kits. Mike Pine makes some great kits. I like them. They're small. They go together well, and they fit into my layout. Here's 2 others. The drugstore and a law office are both Wild West Models kits with interiors in them. The barbershop is another thing I scratch built, and both this and the Post saloon or pool hall were plans I found in a book by Pat Harriman from a model railroad from Kansas City, and I modified his plans and put this in. There's a complete interior here. There's a back bar here for all his barber supplies. There's 2 chairs, stove and everything else. This is another Wild West Models kit, and Myers Coke, and I think it's Classic Miniatures, and this is Trains of Texas Coke ovens. These two cars were built by Craig Brown, and he won. I think they're scratch built. I don't think they're kits. I think they were scratch built by Craig some time ago. Now we have the Colorado Basalt Engine Facilities. This is a model masterpiece, I think, engine kit. I bought this building from a friend. I think it was John Stetz sold me this building, and I had to modify it some, but to get the standard gauge engines in and out, I had to put another base on it, so it raised up about 1/8 of an inch to get, otherwise there wasn't clearance for the standard gauge engines. I did the interior completely up, put all the flooring down, and the pit and all the different materials around were all done. And here's the base. This is actually a true model of a Colorado Midlands water tank and sand house. And the coal loader is from Durango Press. The turntable is a Walther's turntable. I turned it into a dual gauge turntable. I'm going way too fast, I know. Next, we come to Aspen Junction. Aspen Junction is another freelance or fictional railroad, leaves Basalt. Basalt used to be called, originally was called Aspen Junction. That's where I got the name for the railroad. It heads south from Basalt into the mining districts. Ruby is a real town that was tried to beat out Aspen as a mining area, prominent area, but it lost. And Ashcroft is another town further south. Partway up the hill as you go, I'll show you the other side, there's a cutoff that heads through the mountain to the Highline mining area. And in Ashcroft, there's a spur line over here that goes out to some mines. Yeah. The grades on the switchbacks range from 1.5 to 3.6%. Start with the engine facilities in Basalt. This is a Crystal River engine house, and this is the fourth fine scale miniatures kit. It's four buildings here, and this is I think the Rio Grande Models water tank, or no, Durango Press water tank, excuse me. And these are two building and structure company kits here. These little lights here, I like these. I found these Model Tech Studios puts these out, and I've got several of them all over my layout. And I think they really look, I like the way they look. Okay, as we leave Basalt, we're going to climb the hill up to the mining areas. And there's a little still abandoned house up the hill as you're going up the hill. Okay, this is one side of the peninsula. You can see here's the before and after. This tunnel here is solid core tunnel. It's 36 inches long, and I will never do it again. You can't clean it. It's harder than heck to clean the track on the inside. But here's what it looks like now. On this side is a wood line tunnel for microengineering, and then this is a Campbell bridge here. This is the end of the peninsula. This is the first scene that I ever completed on the layout. Here's the before, which shows you the roadbed. Of course, we cut that out to put the trestle in. This trestle was built, all my trestles were built by John Kalin. John and I, we collaborated on this one. All the stringers on this trestle, we went to extract. All the stringers are individual boards, and I put washers in between each of the stringers. So it's built total prototypically. And all these were built after the scenery, most of the scenery, rock and everything were in. John likes to do that. We got jigs that we made out of metal that are adjustable, that measures exact height that we need on all the vents. and we take it over to a jig and we cut it to the height, and it fits right into the scenery even after the scenery is in, excuse me. This is the other side of that peninsula, and this here is the other end of the tunnel that goes, it's a 30-inch tunnel. It's also solid bore, and I didn't like it either. And if you look at this one, you can see under here is the return loop on the standard gauge. And here's our climbing the hill, and there's the Homosot base roadbed. And here is, over here, you can see the finished look. Here's the tunnel that goes out to the High Line on the other side. Another John Kalin trestle. Here's a panoramic view of the switchback mining area from one end to the other. Here's the bench work that we started with. You can see all the road bed, how it's built, and the structure, wiring in there. And here's the completed scene. Now this was the first area I completed, and I said all the switch machines in here, all the switches are controlled by twin solenoid switch machines in here. And these are all little illuminated push buttons. And here, it's the track plan. That's the only area I did this in. All the rest of them are controlled differently. Here's the trestles on the switchback. There's 4 trestles and 1 bridge up here. These are, I said, these were built by John. It all have different, a lot have different designs, and they were all put in after the scenery was completed. This basic scenery was completed. And here are all the mines that are on the switchback. This is a Wild West Models kit, and this is one of the items. I did scratch build this little power plant. The one they have for the kit is way too big for the area I've got up here, so I just scratch built my own, and it did that. And Rich Rand scratch built this tailings dump for me. Next, we got this here. This is a combination. This is the Lucky Mine and the Virginia City ore bin from the Classic Miniatures. This area here. This is the Rockies Mine. It was put out for one of the conventions way back when. And this is, I built a little section in here. It's got a one-way glass in front, and first surface mirror in the back. It's about 3 inches long. I put about 2 or 3 light bulbs in there, and it's operated by a infrared sensor on the front, and when somebody walks up in front of it, it'll light up. The Lucky Linda is a Campbell kit. I built this Far Craig and then inherited from him when we took his layout down. This is the Lucky Linda number 2. It's a building and structure at the Coeur d'Alene mine they made. And the Lucky Linda 1 and 2 are all about the same height. They're the highest thing on the layout. They're about 72 inches off the floor, 71, 72 inches off the floor. The Consolidated Mining and Smelting is scratch built by John Farmy. I was going to scratch build another building out of Pat Harriman's book. He said, no, I got something here I want to build for you. So he built that for me. And this is the train station at Ruby. There is no town here. It's just the train station is all I've done. Now we're in Ashcroft. This is an overall view of Ashcroft from the end. This is kind of a broad view. You don't get the full length of it. Most of these kits up here, when I started building model railroading, I built tons of Campbell kits. And most of these kits up here are Campbell kits that I built. These here are, that's somebody else's kit. I can't think of the name of it. This is mainline and siding is this kit right here. Here's a nighttime view of the town, the church. This is the pastor's house here. It's right here is the preacher's house, and that's the church. Then we go out Ashcroft, like I said, out this line over here, and you come to the mines. It's an overall view of them. This is the Campbell Silver Spur mine, and this is Silverado mine. This is also one I inherited from Craig Brown. He built this, had it on his layout. I inherited it from him. Now we're getting to the Highline trestle. Highlines. This is an overall view of the Highline from one end to the other. See, it's above the town. And this is one of the two trestles. This trestle is modeled after a trestle I came across up above Winter Park on Rollins Pass. It was built right on the rock cliff like that. And I tried to get a model built, made as best I could. And these are the Highline mines. This is a flak mine from Wild West Models. This is another Coeur mine from Building and Structure that Craig Brown built. And this is another, I don't know what my model this is or who built this. Craig built it. It came off of his layout, but I don't know who the manufacturer originally was. That's all I really, as you can tell, I'm nervous as a cat, crazy in here. I had all sorts of stuff printed out and nothing ever happened with it. But I owe a lot of thanks to the Friday Boomers who helped me a lot with building a lot of the stuff in here. And I hope you were able to put up with my stammering. And I do have a video if you want to see that. We got plenty of time, don't we?
Yeah, yes, we do, Bob. If you have a video and you're able to play that, that would be great. And I do have a small number of questions, but
Okay.
We have time for that.
Okay, let's get this. This is not the best video in the world. I'm just learning how to use my gimbal and coordinating the gimbal and with the throttle for the trains and the focusing. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. There's Loon Lake up on top there. Sorry about the stutter there. That's it.
Well, thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. We do have actually quite a few questions came in the last few minutes, so I'll try and summarize some of the comments and some of the questions for you. And if anyone else has any questions, please just put them in the chat window and I'll try and summarize them. I think that worked well last time. So yeah, great job. Thank you. Let me start at the beginning, Bob. There were lots of compliments on the backdrop. I actually really like the painted backdrop. I'm having a mental discussion in my head about whether to use photo or painted backdrops, and there's some discussion about that on the chat. And lots of people like the before and after images you showed, the foresight you actually had to take the before images, which most of us forget. And I personally love the very wide panoramic pictures you had in your presentation that really captured the scope of what you did. And lots of other compliments in the chat, a lot obviously focusing upon the trestles, the rocks, and the rock slides in there. And in fact, one of the questions which Bill Busaka up here in the Northwest said, how many thousand rock models do you actually have?
I don't know. I've lost count. I have a whole lot of them. I made about 20 or 30 of my own. I borrowed some from friends, and I purchased some from Bragdon. I purchased some Woodland Scenics. I've got about 3 or 4 big drawers full of them.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay. So Jonathan asked, can you talk a bit more about your process or how you actually put the trestles in after the scenery was in, because he wants to do something similar.
Yeah. It's John Kalin method. We build trestle bents out of brass tubing, which parts slide in and out of each other so you can adjust the height. And so you got your rocks in there, and you got your deck is already in. So you put this jig in underneath the thing, and you extend the legs of the bent down to the surface of where the rocks are. And then you lock that in, and then you take it over to the jig, and you put it in a jig, and you mark the jig where you want the trestle, how long the bent has to be for each, a leg has to be for each bent. It's really quite ingenious. John did a fantastic, he teaches a whole course on it, a clinic on it, he has.
Well, yeah, and John's coming up next, so hopefully we'll see some more of his trestles.
He's got fantastic trestles on his.
Cool. That sounds intriguing, like almost telescopic bents, if that makes sense. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Mark Lachey asked, would you ask Bob to discuss his choice of light gray paint for his fascia?
It's not gray, it's green. It's a greenish color. It's a gray green. And I just happen to have a lot of it around.
Okay, so a fair, if not an unexpected answer. There you go. Alan Murray, again up here on Whidbey Island, I believe, up here in the Pacific Northwest, he said, how long did it take you to build what we saw?
I started in the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
30 plus years. I am very slow. I take a long time to think. I overthink everything too much, and I'm very slow at it. And I don't know if I mentioned, Kevin Burnside was helped me with the track plan. In fact, he helped me buy the house it's in.
Okay.
He knew he knew I was looking for a basement. I didn't care what the upstairs looked like. He knew I wanted a big basement, so he happened to stumble across this house, which wasn't far from his house at the time. So he said, go look at this house. We went out, and my wife loved the top, and I loved the bottom, and everything worked out. Yeah,
that's one of the criteria we had for the house I live in too, that I like the basement. So
we moved out here, and I guess 85 or 86, something like that. And I had to build, of course, I had to build all the rooms first, you know, the walls and everything else, before I could do anything, so.
Okay, Oh, no, well, thanks. That's a longer answer than I thought. And I think the final question, if I missed anything, was from Steve. He liked the decals on your locomotives and wondering how you, who created those decals on your locomotives.
I did the design, and I forget one of the CWs came from a company. I forget who they are. That was 20, 30 years ago. I started those. The Aspen Junction were printed on a Alpine printer.
Okay, I remember that.
I designed that and printed it on an Alpine printer. I had it printed on an Alpine printer.
Many people don't realize it, but KD couplers out here in Oregon actually will do decals for you, custom.
Oh,
Huh.
Didn't know that.
It's not an obvious thought, right? Is it? It's not really a connected thing.
Right.
Thanks, Russ.
Okay. And I think that was it for the questions we had here. Like I say, if you have time, Bob, later to look at the chat, there's lots of great compliments on the scenery and the rocks and so on. And I have to say, personally, I thought the way you presented that, it was a nice laid out PowerPoint. You led through the layout very methodically. The images of all the structures were great. So I think that was an outstanding job. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry I stumble over my words. I'm very nervous. I just can't get over it.
No, don't worry. The layout came across beautifully, and it was presented in a very straightforward fashion. We really got a flavor for it, and yeah, looking forward to seeing it again in person very, very soon. So thank you.
Anybody wants to call me up in St. Louis, come over and see it. It's fine. If you're in town, give me a call.